Well, hello there, folks. How's it going today? I hope you're all doing really good. Well, we're in the shop here staring at an Ovation Celebrity today. I just put the bridge back on this. It had lifted up and they had glued it right to the lacquer instead of, cleaning that off or at least leaving a strip of bare wood to glue the bridge to. So we took it off. It was glued with nothing but epoxy. There are two holes here too. There's two dots that go in there, and they actually bolted the bridge on in the back. So that does kind of help in this case with alignment. There's no bridge pins in this. The strings go through the back. So the bolts did help me out when I repositioned the bridge and put it back on. So I got these two go bars holding the wingtips down. I took the clamps off that I had on here, so it's probably good to go right just like it is, and I could take these off now, but I'm going to leave them there for right now just to kind of hold the guitar steady, because what I'm about to do is bolt this neck on and glue the fretboard extension down. And I did promise you guys that I would tell you about the dovetail and how I got the neck off this, so I'm going to do that now. Okay, so what you're looking at right here, these two little notches, that is where the dovetail stops. That's the back of the dovetail and the outside of the dovetail. I'm just going to stick a rule on here to show you folks. Hold on just a second. I gotta move this neck over here so I can get this up there. So if you are gonna remove one of these from a guitar, you're looking at about a 1/2 inch right to the center of that little void in the back of the dovetail. Like I said, we're talking about this right here. So that being said, I had to cut the neck off it with a razor saw. Okay, now I got an anchor recessed in there now. So the thing of it is, I did drill holes. You can see my holes that were in the back of the dovetail, and put the heat in there. But the problem is they glued the dovetail in with epoxy, and they glued this tenon down to the block with epoxy as well. Very nice of them. So it was pretty much made not to come apart. So what you have to do is cut with a razor saw. You can go till you hit the truss rod. Try not to with your saw. Then you can kind of cut, on an angle and get what you can off each side. Then I took an X-Acto knife and basically just cut my way in to cut these off, because these stay on the neck. They're part of the neck itself and the heel. So you have to, either heat this dovetail up and somehow heat this up at the same time. Honestly, we're talking about an inexpensive guitar here, so I recommend just cutting it off. Now, I did try to, sweat it out of there with heat probes, but it just wouldn't loosen the glue up. You could smell that sweet kind of candy smell when I did get it hot, but it just would not budge. So, cut them off. That's the best way to do it. It's going to save you a bunch of time, and, if you're going to flip it or just whatever, maybe it has sentimental value to you, whatever it may be, I still recommend cutting it off, because you're going to make a mess if you don't. So that's how I did it. I'll show you the saw that I used. Okay, so it's all written in Japanese, so that's probably not going to do us any good, but I'll show it to you. All right. So this is what it is. I don't even have a handle on this yet. very, very fine kerf. I think it's 10 thousandths. You can see that is paper thin, and it cuts really well. Not a lot of effort involved, and you can barely see the kerf where you just cut. Again, these aren't too much. This was like probably $20 or something. I believe I got this on eBay. I'm sure you can get them on Amazon too. So that was the method of removing the neck. I drilled a hole through the neck block and converted it to a bolt-on like I showed you by recessing the nut into the wood. Put a bunch of CA glue in there, and seems to work good and holds nice. So, all right, so I'm just checking my alignment one more time. As you can see, I got just a little bit of daylight here above the bridge. That's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm going to check and adjust this when I put the glue on, get the bolt in. I've got shims under the fretboard extension too, which I'll clamp down. And then I'm going to check the alignment with a couple of straight wires this way to make sure the neck's not tipped or, kicked off on an angle. We want the string path to be perfect. So I just use a couple of pieces of TIG wire or welding wire, if you will. I'll line those up on where the strings would come through the bridge, or where the bridge pins would be if it had bridge pins. And I'll line that up along the fretboard. I have two of these that I do it with, and I just do it on the outside holes. And it's basically just a measurement or a visual. You can tell if it's running crooked or straight. And that's basically how I go about that. So, without further ado, I think we're going to get the glue out. And we'll get this glued up. I want to have this sit for 24 hours or so. And I think we're going to be in pretty good shape. I've kind of gone over the clamping process a little bit. It's not going to take a lot. Pretty simple. Okay, so let's get the glue out. I'm going to glue this one on with some Loctite. Excuse me. It's wood glue. It's got a 10-minute clamp time. I've used this a few times and it works really, really good. So basically like Tight Bond, same idea. All right, let's get going. All right, let's get some glue on her here. Start the madness. You could use fish glue, you could use Tight Bond, you could use even epoxy if you chose to. It's all up to you what you want to use, definitely. I like the cleanup of like Tight Bond and wood glue versus epoxy, but in some cases I will use epoxy too. Whatever I need to use, I figure would work better is really how I judge it. Again, this was not the greatest design in the world, doing this, how they did it with a plastic sort of mortise and whatnot, but it seems to have been Ovation's thing for a long time, so they're not going to change, and we're not going to change them. So, get a generous amount of glue on here. And you don't want to be cheap with the glue. Put some glue on it. Then there's no bare spots in there. And I'm just using a little glue spreader here to get it going. Okay. Now we will set that on. We're going to have a bunch of mess to clean up from the squeeze out. I already know that, but that's okay. Now I'm going to try to get this bolt started in here. Again, this has a 10-minute work time, so I'm not extremely worried about it, but we don't want to take all day either. Try to get it in there as quick as we can. Okay, so the bolt's in. I got one clamp stuck on here for right now. I will probably add some more, or maybe a few go bars too. But right now, the main thing I want to do is line up the string path. This is very important. I'm going to slide those down a little bit. Just kind of drape them there. Okay. So again, you can do this with, dental floss. You can do it with guitar strings. I happen to have a bunch of this TIG welding wire laying around here. Okay. So we're going to check that over real quick. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. I just use these as a reference to make sure that the string pull is nice and straight. That looks pretty good to me right there. I don't even really need to measure it. I can kind of eyeball it and see that it's going to be okay. So I've got some tape here on the top of the guitar. I'm going to remove that, get rid of some squeeze out, and put a couple more clamps on it, and leave it for the night. One more thing we are going to check is the clearance over the bridge here. I'll set a straight edge on here. Oh boy, that's so close. It just barely touches it. I think I'm going to go with that. That should be a good angle. Yeah, I think we're good to go. So basically that's it. Other than putting a few more clamps on, I like to start with this one so that way it's pinching it down, and then if I do need to adjust, it's not going to walk off this way. It'll actually kind of pivot there for me. So again, that's how I do it. I use these pieces of stainless steel welding wire for alignment. Like I said, now if it had pins, I have 90s bent on the ends. I would just drop that down through the bridge pin holes, but in this case it doesn't. So I'm just centering them over the through holes where the outside E strings will come through. So I think we are going to be in good shape on this one. Once you get it cut off, it's not that tough to do the conversion. It really isn't. Takes a little bit of planning and marking and that kind of thing, but it's really not that difficult. So we'll see what this looks like tomorrow, and pull all the clamps and all that stuff off, get it cleaned up. We still need to put the rosette back on. There's a few other little odds and ends. The tuners I kind of messed up. Maybe we'll throw a set of tuners on it too so it looks nice and everything matches good. And then I will need to go inside and do something with the wiring. It's just kind of dangling in there. I've got some two-sided tape. I can stick the harness up out of the way so it's not rattling around in there. And probably just a good cleaning. We'll check the frets out, make sure there's no high frets, and just give them a quick polish, and hopefully we can put some strings on it. Well, thanks again for tuning in and following along, guys. If you are messing with an Ovation, you can probably steam it out of there. I'm a little leery of doing anything with this plastic back, as far as heat and steam. It can be done. I've seen it done, but if it's, an inexpensive one like this, it's just my opinion, but I say cut it off. Take the saw, cut it off. Does a nice clean job. You really can't even tell after you bolt it back on. Okay, thanks again, guys, and we'll see you real soon. Be good. Okie doke.